Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to get past some common problems and issues when you're using Selenium. Now a while ago, I made a Selenium tutorial series. I probably made this about a year and a half ago. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But what Selenium is a framework that allows you to automate your browser. So you can automatically click on things, you can download things, you can scrape stuff off of websites, you can just automate pretty much any task. You can make a bot that buys you, a new shirt or a pair of sneakers or whatever it is that you would normally do as a human in the browser, you can automate that with Selenium. However, a lot of websites have advanced security and they can detect when you're using Selenium. And a lot of you left comments on that series saying that you couldn't get past certain fields or forms, or you were running into errors where you were being detected as a bot. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get past that and how you can use Selenium without the websites knowing that you are a bot and without being limited in specific features. So we'll get into that in a second, but I first want to give you a demo of this problem actually happening. So I have a regular Selenium script in front of me. You can see I'm importing all my WebDriver stuff. And what this script actually does is it opens up Alibaba and it tries to sign in and then actually search for a product and buy it. However, you're going to see that when I try to sign in here, it actually doesn't let me because it says that my device is a bot or it's not a recognized machine or something along those lines. So let me go ahead and run the code here and show you the error that we're going to get. So let's run. Let me just make this full screen so we can see it. And now watch what's going to happen. So my code is going to automatically close the pop-up. It's going to click the join button. It's going to try to sign in with Google. And then as soon as I try to sign in here, it's going to tell me that this browser or app may not be secure. So it says try using a different browser. If you're already using a supported browser, you can try again to sign in. So I'm not able to get past this Google sign-in because this can actually detect that I am using Selenium and using a bot. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get past this specifically, but what I'm going to show you how to do should work for any other bot detection security and allow you really to use Selenium freely without any restrictions. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to be able to get past these restrictions with Selenium, what we're going to do is use a piece of software called Kameleo. Now, Kameleo is the sponsor of this video, but what this platform allows you to do is actually spoof and change your browser fingerprint, change your IP address by using something like a proxy, and essentially hide the fact that you are a bot and make it appear as though you are a real human user interacting with the website. It's a really awesome platform. I'm going to show you all of the features in it in a second, but essentially what this means is that you can use Selenium the exact same way you would have before. There's just a few setup steps beforehand where you're going to create a Kameleo browser instance, and you're going to use that to actually interact with the website rather than the regular Chrome driver or Firefox driver or whatever driver you would have used. Again, all this is going to do is change the browser fingerprint and allow you to kind of change your location, language, all of that kind of stuff, such that you can interact with the website without the website knowing that you are a bot or that you are using Selenium. So the first thing that we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to make an account on Kameleo. Now, Kameleo is paid software. I already have a paid account with them, but if you want to get access to the software for free, then what you can do is just reach out to them. I'll leave a link to their website in the description. You can request a free trial, and if you say that you came from my video, then they should give you a free trial, and you'll be able to access the platform for a few days or whatever it is that they end up giving you. Anyways, you can do that to try it out before you actually have to pay for anything. So what we're going to do is make an account. Of course, I already have an account. And once you sign in, then what you can do is just go to downloads. So I'm going to go to downloads here. And then what we want to do is install the Kameleo installer. Now, Kameleo works for all kinds of other things as well. This isn't just for Selenium. And you'll note here that they have a mobile installer as well. We're not going to deal with that in this video. We just want the desktop installer. So this is for Windows. I'm going to click on the download link. It's going to download. I'm going to run through the installer, and then I will have Kameleo installed. Now, I already have it installed on my computer, so I'm just going to open up the program, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I've just opened the Kameleo application. Now, the way that I've opened this is I've just ran through the installer. I've then just typed in Kameleo, ran the app, signed into my account, and then I was brought to a page that looked like this. This is their graphical user interface. Now, inside of here, you can actually create browser instances. You can create things known as profiles, and this allows you to actually open up the browser, manually go through and use the browser from, say, a different location or from a different device or operating system. Well, I'm going to kind of talk to you about how all of this stuff works. So every time that you go to a website, you're going to have a fingerprint associated with your browser. Now, this fingerprint is just data about the machine that you're on, the operating system that you're using, the browser that you have open, your IP address, your location, your time zone, all of this type of stuff. Now, the reason why this fingerprint is going to be kind of passed on to the website is because it needs to know what location you're from, mostly what language you're speaking, all of these other things, so it can actually verify if it wants to allow you to go on the website, right? So there's a ton of different websites that just don't let you browse them if you're from a different country, or maybe they're blocked into certain regions. You guys know what I'm talking about. For example, like US Netflix has a lot more movies and shows than Canadian Netflix does, and you can't access US Netflix unless you are in the US. Now, how do you think it knows you're in the US? Well, it uses your browser fingerprint. Anyways, here in Kameleo, you can change that fingerprint. So you can make it look like you're browsing from a different country. You can give yourself a different IP address by connecting to a proxy, and you can very easily switch between different browser profiles that you set up yourself. So say right now you want to connect from like Mexico to a website, you can do that, and then very easily you can load another profile and connect from, say, the United States or some other random country. So for now, let's set up a Kameleo profile, look at kind of how that works and how we just use the browser manually, and then we'll connect it with Selenium. So from this interface here, I'm just going to click on New Profile, and what this is going to allow me to do is set up a Kameleo profile by selecting a device, operating system, browser, and language. So for now, I want to have a desktop device, not a mobile device. For the operating system, I'm just going to go with Windows. And then for the browser, I'm going to go with Chrome. Of course, you can do Edge and Firefox as well. And then for the language, I want this to be English, okay? So we can see we have desktop, Win32, Windows 10, Chrome 95, English. So I'm going to select this. There should be a ton of different options here that you can go through. All right, so now I'm brought to this page where I can configure some settings for my profile. Now, of course, you guys can read through these. They're pretty straightforward, but you can change things like the time zone, the geolocation, you can connect to a proxy, and actually that's what we're going to do right now. So whenever you're using Kameleo, you should really be connecting to a proxy. This is going to allow you to actually hide your geolocation. If you don't connect to a proxy, you're going to be using your regular IP address, and so websites will actually know that you are from a certain part of the world. Now, this is still not going to be able to detect that you are a bot because Kameleo will change the fingerprint of the browser, but you do need to connect to a proxy if you want to change where you're showing up from, so what region in the world you're browsing from. So what I'm going to do is go to HTTP here in proxy, and now I'm going to show you how we can actually set up a proxy and then use that inside of here when we're connecting or creating a profile with Kameleo. So the proxy that I want to use for this video is actually called Bright Data, or it's from Bright Data, which is a website that I'm going to go to now and start talking about. All right, so I'm here on the Bright Data website. Now, this is simply a proxy provider. They have all different types of proxies, from data center proxies, ISP proxies, residential proxies, rotating proxies, whatever you could imagine they probably have on here. Anyways, this is paid as well, but you can sign up for a free trial and get access to $5 or $10 in free credit if you want to follow along with this video. Anyways, I'll leave a link to the description, and what you're going to have to do is make an account, sign up for the free trial, get the credit, and then what you can do is go to your user dashboard. So I'm going to go to my user dashboard here. The first thing I want to do is just go to proxies and just show you the different options and talk about which one we're going to use. So we have mobile, shared residential, shared data center, shared ISP, regular ISP, and then unblocked. Now, I won't go through them in detail, but what we're going to use here is just the shared residential proxy. Now, what this is a rotating proxy that actually uses a real IP address from a real device. So this means you really cannot get banned because you're actually using a legitimate device. The only issue you might have here is that other people could be using this IP address as well. That's why it's shared. Anyways, the residential is probably the one that you want to use. It's also relatively cheap. However, you could use a data center proxy, an ISP proxy, mobile proxy, really depends on your use case, and you can read all about the different use cases for these right on the Bright Data website. Anyways, I want to use the shared residential proxy. So what I'm going to do is go here to API and integrations, go to proxy and web unblocker API. And then what I want to do is select the shared residential proxy right here. Now, first, I just have to click on other software. You can use these proxies from, Shell, Node, Java, all the other options they have. But since we're going to be plugging this into Kameleo, we just hit other software. Okay, so we're going to go shared residential. Now what we need to do is pick a country, and we want to make sure this country is going to match with the country we chose for the profile of our Kameleo profile. So I'm going to go United States. For the destination site, you can leave this, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to make it empty. And then for an example, getting started is fine. You could use something else, but we're just going to leave getting started. And for root, we don't need to actually select anything. So really just select the type of proxy and then the exit node country. And what it's going to do is actually give you all of the information you need right here. So it says this is the proxy, this is the port, this is the user, and this is the password. Now what this proxy address will actually do is give you the rotating proxy, which means your IP address will change every so often based on usage and a bunch of other factors that I really am not qualified to talk about. Anyways, point is we now have our login information, so we're going to use this right inside of Kameleo. Okay, so I've just split the screen here so we can see all the information as well as the Kameleo UI. So what I want to do is go to where it says proxy, hit on HTTP, and then for the IP or host name, I'm just going to copy this right here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this in. For the port, we will use this port. And then for authentication, we're going to check this, and we're going to put in our username as well as our password. So let's go username, password like this. Okay, paste, and then hit test proxy. Now, when we do that, we should see that we get proxy work, successfully loaded, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that means we are good to go. So what I'm going to do here is just check on OK. And now we have connected the proxy to this profile. Okay, so now our profile is created and we can go ahead and start it. So I'm going to click on the start button and we're going to see this should open the Chrome browser for us. And I'm just going to show you that I'm actually located in the United States here. Like the proxy is the United States. My actual location is Canada. So when I go to, what's my IP or where's my location, you're going to see that it's showing me in the United States, even though I'm actually located in Canada. So notice it's not even telling me where in the United States. It just says you are in the United States. That is false. I'm currently in Canada. Now, if we do something like what's my IP, let's see what we're getting here. This is the IP. This is not actually my public IP address. Of course, I wouldn't show this to you, but I'm just proving to you that we are actually spoofing our location. And okay, here it's saying we're in Massachusetts or close to Rhode Island or something like that. Anyways, doesn't really matter. Just wanted to show you that we are actually kind of spoofing the IP address, and we are now able to use this browser as if we were browsing from the United States. Okay, so let me close this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so now that this is closed, what I'm going to do is actually save this profile because I want to connect to this profile from Selenium. Now, you don't have to do this. You can actually make a new profile from code, but we are going to be able to load a profile in. So what I'm going to do is go here and click on Save As. And then I'm going to save this as just test.kameleo inside of my Kameleo folder, which is where I have all of the Kameleo code I'm going to use for this tutorial. Okay, so I saved it, test.kameleo, and then if I wanted to load it in, so if I reran this application and I wanted to load this profile in again, I would just click on Browse here, I would find the profile, I would click to it and open it up, and then I would be good to go. Now, these profiles are really cool because they actually save cookie and session data as well, which means if you say sign into Google or sign into some website, and then you save the profile, the next time you load it, you're still going to be signed in. So anything that you do in the browser, it will actually save. That's kind of the power of the profiles. Now, of course, you can make multiple profiles, open profiles. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. I don't need to explain that anymore. Now what I'm going to do is hop over to Sublime Text, and I'm going to start showing you how we can actually use Kameleo to automate the browser. All right, so now we're actually going to connect Python to Kameleo, but before we do that, I quickly want to explain how Kameleo actually works. So when you run Kameleo, the graphical user interface, what it does is it actually exposes a REST API. Now, this is a local REST API, and in fact, if I go to a browser tab here and I go to this location, you can see that we can actually view all of the endpoints for this API on our local host. Now, the reason I can see this is because I'm currently running Kameleo. If I wasn't running it, I wouldn't be able to see this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to install the Python package for Kameleo, which just is a wrapper that interacts with the REST API. So it just makes our life a lot easier. But if you wanted to, you could manually send HTTP commands to localhost :5050, and then you could interact with Kameleo. Now, Kameleo also has a package for NuGet and for NPM. So if you're working with any .NET technologies or JavaScript, then it's also very easy to interact with this REST API. Now, the last thing I will mention here is that we actually can run this REST API without having this graphical user interface open. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to open up our command prompt and we're going to type in the following command. So I'm just going to copy in the path to my Kameleo CLI tool. So this is actually the path. You guys can go to the appropriate path on your own machine. So users / whatever your username is where you install Kameleo, app data, local programs, Kameleo, and then / and then you're going to run the Kameleo CLI dot and then exe. Now, this is actually going to run the command line interface for you, which will expose the REST API and allow you to view logging information when you're actually interacting with Kameleo. So if I hit enter here, you're going to see it started this on this port, but the application startup failed. Now, the reason it failed is because I need to pass a username and password for authentication when I actually start this. So what you need to do is say username, or actually, I believe it's not username, I believe it's email, is equal to, and then your email, and then you need to say password is equal to your password. Now, of course, I can't show you my email and password, so I'm going to type these in and run this, and then I'll show you how it works. All right, so I'm now running the CLI tool. I'm just going to have my editors actually blur out my email here and my password so you guys don't see it. But the point is I've now authenticated successfully by passing email equals, and then my email, and password equals, and then my password. And now, of course, if I refresh this page here, you're going to see this still works because, well, the REST API is still running. So now that we have this running from the command line interface, we also could run it from the graphical user interface. Doesn't really matter. What I'm going to do is install the Python package, which is called Kameleo.local API client. So I can just copy this command here, pip install Kameleo local API client. I'm going to open up a new command prompt here. So let's just run this like here. I'm going to insert this command and hit enter. Now, for some reason, this pip command doesn't work for you. You may not have pip installed in your system path. I will leave 2 videos on the screen that show you how to fix that. You also can just try doing the following: Python and then -m pip install and then Kameleo.local API client. Anyways, I'm assuming that you guys know how to do that, but I just want to show that in case. Okay, so now that we have this installed, what we can actually do is finally go to our Python code and we can start actually connecting with Kameleo. All right, so now I'm actually inside of the code that I showed you at the very beginning of the video that wasn't working and didn't allow us to sign into Google. What we're going to do is simply refactor this using Kameleo and getting a WebDriver from our Kameleo profile. Now, we're actually going to start by creating a brand new profile from code. Then I'll show you how to load and save profiles. So I'm not really going to explain all of this code here. This is just regular Selenium code. This is not a tutorial on Selenium, but if you do want to learn Selenium and understand how all of this works, then what you can do is go to the series that I have on Selenium. I will put it on the screen and leave it in the description. I will also leave all of this code on GitHub and I'll link to that in the description, as well as the documentation for Kameleo in case you get confused when we go through this. Anyways, now that we have Kameleo installed, what I want to do is go up here and start importing some stuff from Kameleo that we need. So as a reminder, what we're going to do here is start by creating a new profile from code, and then we're going to load that profile, use it, get access to its WebDriver, and you're going to see that what we had before that wasn't working now hopefully should be working. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is say from, and then this is going to be Kameleo and dot local underscore API underscore client dot, and then local API client again. We're going to import the Kameleo, and then this is going to be the local API client. Now, after that, we're going to say from Kameleo, this will be dot local API client again, except this time it's going to be builder underscore for underscore create underscore profile like that. And then we're going to import the builder for create profile. Now, let me just look at my cheat sheet here to make sure this is correct. Looks good. I believe that's all we need for right now. So now that we have both of those, what I'm going to do is actually remove my WebDriver here because I no longer need to use the Selenium WebDriver. I'm going to use the Kameleo WebDriver. So I'm going to start by defining the base URL of the REST API for Kameleo. So I'm going to say Kameleo, and then this will be underscore base underscore URL is equal to, and then this is going to be localhost 5050 like that. That is where Kameleo is hosted currently, and you need to have Kameleo running, either the CLI or the graphical user interface, for this to actually work. So keep that in mind. You need it running in the background, otherwise this will not work. Again, either the graphical user interface or the CLI. So now that I have this, what I'm going to do is say my client is equal to, and then this is going to be the Kameleo local API client, and I'm going to pass to this the Kameleo base URL, and then this should initialize Kameleo. So now I have client, and what I can do is actually search for a base profile and then create a new instance of that base profile. So all of this documentation will be linked in the description. But what I'm going to say is my base underscore profiles is equal to client dot, and then this is going to be search, and I believe this is base profiles. So we're going to say base underscore profiles like that. What this is going to do is look through the base default profiles, the one that we saw on Kameleo in the graphical user interface, and we're going to search for ones that meet some specific criteria. So what we want here is the device underscore type to be equal to, and then this is going to be a desktop like that. This is actually going to be lowercase. And then for the browser, I believe we just say browser like that, underscore product actually is going to be equal to, and then just Chrome. So this is going to give us the result for all of the base profiles that have a device of desktop and the product of Chrome. Now, for me to have this be valid, I just need to add in these right here. Okay, so now we should have access to all of the base profiles, and what I want to do is create a new profile based on this base profile, or based on one of these base profiles. All right, so on the next line down, I'm going to say the create underscore profile underscore request, if we could type this properly, is equal to builder for create profile. I'm going to do a backslash, then dot, and this is going to be, I guess, base or from underscore base underscore profile. Okay, then we're going to pass the base profiles at index0.id. The idea here is that this is going to give us a list of profiles, all of them that match this criteria. There's some other keywords you can pass. Again, I'll leave the documentation in the description. Anyways, we don't really care. We just want to get any of them that match this criteria. So we'll get the very first one. We'll get the ID of it, and we'll pass that to here for the builder for create profile. Anyways, after this, I'm going to do a backslash. I'm going to say dot, and this is going to be set underscore recommended, and then not features, but this is actually going to be defaults like that. And then we're going to do a backslash again, and then say dot build. Okay, next we are going to say the profile is equal to, and this is going to be client dot, and I believe this is just create profile, and we're going to pass as the body here the create profile request. So what this is going to be here is actually the request for the profile that we want to create. We then need to send that request by calling create profile. So create profile is actually going to call the REST API that's running. It's going to create the profile. Then it's going to return it to us inside of this profile variable. We don't really need to understand how all of this works because we have this nice wrapper that we can use, but that's kind of what this is doing. Okay, let me just look at my cheat sheet, make sure I didn't mess anything up. Looks like we are all good for right now. And now that we have created the profile, the next thing that I want to do is actually get access to the WebDriver from the profile. So I'm going to start by saying options is equal to WebDriver dot, and then this is going to be Chrome options like this. Now, if you want to find where I'm using this WebDriver, I'm just importing it from Selenium. So of course, you're going to need Selenium installed as well to follow along with this. I kind of assume at this point you all have Selenium. Otherwise, I'm not sure why you'd be watching this tutorial. Anyways, we're going to have options is equal to WebDriver.Chrome options. Then what we're going to do is say options.add, and this is going to be underscore experimental underscore option. And we're going to say inside of here that the Kameleo colon, and then this is going to be profile ID, comma, and we're going to pass the profile.id. So a little bit strange, but we're just pretty much telling this WebDriver to use Kameleo. So we're saying Kameleo, profile ID. When we pass the profile ID, that will be substituted in here, and well, then we'll have the correct WebDriver options. Now what we're going to do is say driver is equal to WebDriver dot, and then remote. And what we're going to do is make our command executor. So let's say command executor like that equal to, and then this is going to be f string. Inside of here, we're going to say Kameleo, and then this is going to be the underscore base underscore URL slash, and then WebDriver. And then we're going to say the options. is equal to options. Of course, we need a comma, and I don't think we need backslashes, actually. I think this is good. Okay, so there we go. Obviously, I don't have all of this memorized. I'm just reading this right from the Kameleo documentation. Again, I'm going to keep saying it is in the description. Okay, so let's just run through what we did here because I understand this is a lot of code. So what we did is define the base URL of Kameleo just where it's running, like the local API, right? So it's running on localhost port 5050. Then we are creating a client, pretty straightforward. Remember, we imported these two things right here. Next, we were saying the base profiles is equal to client.search base profiles. We're searching for the device type of desktop and the browser product of Chrome. We could also search by language and by, I believe, operating system as well. Anyways, we then have create profile request. So we're saying builder for create profile dot from base profile 0. So just getting the first one and the ID of it. We're setting the recommended defaults and then building this request. Then we're going to say profile is equal to client.createProfile, pass in the body here, which is going to be the request. This will then give us the profile. Now that the profile is created, what we need to do is make a WebDriver that uses this profile. So this here, WebDriver, again, this is coming right from Selenium. So we're saying options, WebDriver.Chrome options. We're going to add an experimental option. This is going to tell the WebDriver to use Kameleo. Then when we run the WebDriver, we're going to say WebDriver.Remote. We're going to pass the command executor as the base URL, so our kind of localhost API client /WebDriver, and then the options equal to the options. This will then return to us an actual WebDriver that uses Kameleo. So now I don't need to mess with the rest of my code at all because it's using a variable called driver. So now I'm just going to be using my regular WebDriver here from Kameleo. Hopefully that makes sense, but at this point in time, that's really all you need to know to use a Kameleo profile. Now just use this driver object here as your WebDriver and you will have your browser fingerprint changed and you shouldn't be detected as a bot. All right, so I was about to just run the code, but after reading through this quickly, I realized there's a few minor mistakes, so let's just go ahead and fix those quickly. So first, we're going to go to our import statement here, and notice how I was kind of thrown off that these were the same name, so local API client twice. Well, they actually aren't. I just read it incorrectly. This is going to be Kameleo and then underscore local API client. So make that change in the first import statement. My apologies. Also, we need to change this from all capital on API to a lowercase for P and I, which means we also need to change that here. Another error that we had is I had from base profile here. This is actually going to be for base profile. So let's fix that. And one thing that I forgot to do was start my profile. So after we create the profile, it's not yet started. I actually need to start it. And the way I start it is client dot and then start underscore profile. And I just pass the profile dot ID like this. Okay, we should be good to go now. Again, my apologies on those mistakes, but that's what happens when you're programming. Now, fingers crossed, let's run the code and see if this works. All right, so we can see that we have loaded up AliExpress here. We should hopefully close the pop-up. It's going to click on the join button, sign in with Google. It's going to bring us to this page. We're going to enter our information here, and we should be good to go here once this closes. Let's see. All right, so we are now back on Alibaba. It searches for RTX 3060, which is what I have the script actually doing. And then notice it shows us all of these options. Okay, so let's make this larger here. And there we go. We are good to go. So that is how this works, right? Using Kameleo, we were able to sign in, whereas when we were using just regular Selenium, it didn't allow us to do so. So that's as easy as it is to get started with Kameleo. Now what I want to show you how to do is how to save a profile and how to load a profile, because a lot of times as soon as you kind of do all of this tedious stuff, signing in, whatever, you want to save your browser information, your cookies, all of that data, and then load that in another time. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I've just pulled up the documentation for actually saving the profile for Kameleo. Now what I'm going to do is just copy in some of the stuff here to save us a bit of time. So we need this import right here to save the profile. Notice there's a save profile request. So I'm going to copy that in. We'll put that at the top of our code right here. Let's go back to this, which is right here. And we can see that to save the profile, we first need to actually stop it, which is something that I haven't done yet. So we'll look at that in a second. Then we're going to grab the path where we want to save the profile to, and we're going to use the save profile request. So let me just copy all of this, and then we'll kind of walk through this step by step. So after all of our stuff is done here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my profile. Now my profile is stored in profile, so it's fine to say client.stop profile and then stop the profile ID. then what we need to do here is actually generate the path where we want to save this file to. Now this involves me importing OS. So let's do this. Actually, OS is already imported, so I don't need to do that. Anyways, we have OS imported, so this is going to get the directory name and the path of where the current file is, and then we're going to save this as test2.kameleo because we have test already saved in this directory. Anyways, then we're going to say result is equal to client.saveProfile, pass the profile ID we want to save, and then the save profile request, which just takes in the path and says where on our system we want to save this. Then what this does is just print out profile has been saved to, and then the result of here, .last known path. So we can run this one more time. And actually, while I run this time, I want to open up the CLI and show you that we're actually going to see kind of the logs and information happening here while this runs. So let's just split this on the screen. I didn't mean to minimize that. Let's turn this over here. So as this runs, you're going to see, information occurs on here. It says profile with ID has been started successful, received WebDriver connection. And then as soon as we save and stop the profile, you're going to see that in here as well. Okay, so let's give it a second. This part takes a few seconds to run. All right, so we can see here that the profile with ID has been stopped successfully, and then profile with ID has been saved. What I will do is open up my Windows Explorer and show you this file. All right, so I now have my Windows Explorer open. Notice I have a bunch of files inside of here, and while test2 was just saved at this time when I'm actually recording the video. Anyways, what I'm going to do now is show you how we can load a profile. So rather than having to go through all of these steps of actually creating a profile from a base profile, we're just going to load a profile from a file. Let's do that now. So again, I've just opened up the Kameleo documentation. We can just copy and paste a few things in here. So I'm going to copy in the load profile request import statement. So let's put that up here. And before I copy anything else, let me just delete a few things here. So I don't need to create a profile. I don't need to search the base profiles, so I can get rid of all of this. And for now, I'm just going to say profile is equal to none, and then we're going to load it in a minute. Now, I also don't want to save this profile anymore, so I'm going to get rid of all of this right here, okay? But we will stop the profile. So now let's go back to our documentation, which is right here, and let's find where we load in a profile. Looks like we do it right here. So we're going to say profile is equal to client.loadProfile. Turns out we're actually going to need this path, so I'll copy that in a second. So I'm going to say profile is equal to this. Start profile, that's fine. We can start the profile, and I need to copy in this path variable right here. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to say path is equal to this. This time I'm going to access the test profile. The reason for that is I want to access the profile that we created at the beginning of the video that's connected to the proxy. Then I'm going to say profile is equal to client.loadProfile. The body will be equal to load profile request. We'll pass the path, which we defined right here. And then I'm going to say client.startProfile. We're going to get the WebDriver, and we're going to do everything we did before. Pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and run this and see if this works. All right, so I've just split the windows here. So we have both the CLI tool as well as the web browser. Now I'm going to let the program run through here, and then I'll confirm with you if it's successful or not in a second. All right, so we've just got past the Google sign-in. Now it's actually closing this page. As we know, this takes a while. So once this is done loading and it redirects us, then I will be right back. Okay, so it's redirected us back. It just searched for RTX 3060. Looks like it has been successful. Let's make this larger. We can see we're seeing some different graphics cards. And then, of course, the program is going to close because now we are finished. Anyways, that is how you actually load a profile and then execute that with Kameleo. Now, the last thing I want to show you here is that if we actually go to the Kameleo user interface, we're going to see that all of the profiles we've created and loaded as we've been kind of doing this from code are actually going to show up on our UI. So notice we have all of these different profiles here. A bunch of them we created from the base profiles when we were originally kind of testing and running this application. Then we have test.kameleo, which we've loaded in, right? And then we have a bunch of other unsaved profiles, and test2.kameleo, which we actually manually saved from the code. So I just wanted to show you that. They show up in the user interface as well. All right, so now that we've looked at that example, the last thing I want to show you how to do is how to connect to a proxy from code. So I showed you previously that we could load up the graphical user interface, create a new profile, and then connect to the proxy. However, that means we had to load the profile like this to be able to actually use it. So sometimes instead you want to make a new profile from code and then directly add the proxy. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now we're going to use Kameleo, obviously. You can connect to a proxy with Selenium. However, you're severely limited because you can't pass authentication information. So you can't pass an email, you can't pass a password, and so it makes it pretty useless if you have an authenticated proxy like we do. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. So what I'm going to do is open up this documentation here, and what I need to do now is create a new profile. So I'm just going to copy this. We've already seen this here. We have base profiles, create profile request, and then profile. I'm going to copy all of this in and simply replace these two lines right here. Okay, so now rather than loading a profile, we're going to be creating a new one. Again, we've already seen how to do this. The only difference is now we have this .setProxy method. Now notice here we're using server, so we're setting up the proxy server. So I need to import this, which I'm going to get from right here. So I'm going to steal this import from Kameleo.local API client.models.server_pi3 import server. Again, this documentation will be linked in the description. You can very easily find that example. Anyways, we now have this import, so this should all work. And what we can do here is connect to all different types of proxies. So we can connect to a SOCKS 5 proxy, HTTP, or HTTPS. Now the proxy that I'm going to use is from Bright Data, and this is going to be HTTP. So what I'm going to do now is go to Bright Data, which is right here. I'm going to copy in this information into these fields, and then I will be right back. All right, so I've now filled in all my proxy credentials. You can see I have my secret, my ID, my port, and my host. And now I should actually be good to just run this code and see if this works. Again, the only change we've made to connect to a proxy is we've just called .setProxy. Make sure you do this import though, because you need to import server. We then define server, we put the type of the proxy, and we passed all of our credentials and login information for the proxy. Okay, so I should be good to run this. I'm going to go ahead and run. Once this is loaded, I will show you if it is working or not. All right, so it looks like the WebDriver has loaded. You can see it's open in front of me right now. Now I'm going to let it run through the script, and then once it's finished, I will confirm with you that it is indeed working. Okay, so it has now redirected us back to AliExpress. We got through the Google sign-in, and we can see that it has searched for RTX 3060, and everything is all good. Okay, it actually closes that because now we are finished with the program. And there you go. We have now completed connecting to a proxy from code. All right, so with that said, I'm pretty much going to wrap up the video here. There's not really much more that I can mention. Another massive thank you to Kameleo for sponsoring this video, and I hope this helps you guys get past some Selenium restrictions. With that said, if you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.